Hello, it is Cryo again. And this is another linked universe thing. The artist is Mumix21. Again, watch the first part, the Embers of Mipha's Grace, because it happens directly before this, and most of Mumix's stuff for The Legend of Zelda, at least, linked universe, is in order, so you have to read the ones before that, or else things don't necessarily make sense. Most of it, at the very least. So, let's get into it. Ratings. Teen and up audience. Archive warning is major character death. Category is M-M. Again, I don't know what that means. Kindly let me know. Fandoms. The Legend of Zelda and related fandoms. The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Legend of Zelda, Four Swords. Relationship, Shadow Link - Vio Link. Characters, Wild, Linked Universe, 4, Linked Universe, Vio Link, Shadow Link, Red Link, Green Link, Blue Link, Wolfie, Linked Universe, Rivali, Legend of Zelda, Mipha, Legend of Zelda, Daruk, Legend of Zelda, Urbosa, Legend of Zelda. Additional tags, Panic Attacks, 200 Questions, Rivali, Legend of Zelda, being an asshole, Parental Figure Urbosa, Legend of Zelda, Mumix's Vio, Linked Universe, Legend of Zelda, Female Wild, Trans Female Character, Female Blue, Agender Vio, Agender Character, Major Character Undeath, Beta Red. The title of this fic is Coals to Shadow. Summary. 4 and Wild play 200 questions. Wild gets a twig out of her hair. 4 learns something earth-shattering. Updated before July 19th, 2024. Notes. This one was awesome to write. I am an expert of 200 questions myself. For those rereading this due to the updates, it's going to take a while for me to get to everything, so we'll be slow going with the updates, as I don't want to slow down my normal posting speed. Additional 673 words after editing. See the end of the work for more notes. To begin. As she came back to herself, her breathing slowly started to even out. For a few moments, she focused on keeping them even, before turning her head to the side. 4 was sitting nearby, but not close. She could tell they had given significant thought to where that spot would be, as they were right where they would be the most comforting, without being too close. They were singing the stupid song Wind had taught them yesterday. If slightly different than how they had been taught. A more interesting version in her view. 44 bottles of booze on the wall. 44 bottles booze on the wall. What? Take one down, throw it across the room, and there's even more booze on the floor. 43 bottles of juice on the wall. 43 bottles of juice on the wall. Take one down, throw it down, and slide across the floor. Whee! 42 bottles of water. 42 bottles of water. Take one down, drink one down. Ah! 41 bottles of stuff on the wall. 41 bottles of stuff on the wall. Why are we singing this stupid song? Wild giggled, hearing each of their unique versions. They stopped singing, smiling at her, their eyes changing colors, looks of concern in all 4 of them, before they settled on Green. So, ready to talk? And maybe come out of that bush? Slowly, she pulled herself out of the bush, waiting on Green to speak. So, why don't we play 200 questions? Although her voice was rough from crying, she sounded amused as well. 200. I thought Legend said it was 20. 20 questions. We suck at guessing, or, well, none of us can agree on a question. All right, ask away. She waved her finger at them. But I have a few questions as well. How about all of us take turns guessing? So you get 4 questions to my 1 question? Kind of. But our questions are going to be so different, it wouldn't result in us picking on a subject between all 4 of us. Green eyes rolled. For example, the argument currently going on is about who will go first. We voted, and I'm first. Then Blue, because she is insisting on going first, but the rest voted for me to go first. Vio offered to go last, so Red. And then, do you want to go before or after Vio? I'll go after Vio. Green nodded. Alright, now this has been bugging me for a while. How did you figure us out? You prefer different foods depending on your eye color. Green blinked. Our taste in food? Four's eyes turned blue. Hey, it's my turn to ask a question. I thought Blue was supposed to be female. Okay, whatever. He turned to Wild. What's your weapon preference? We are going to make you a weapon that doesn't break. We need to know what to make, and teach you how to maintain it versus throwing away blunted weapons. One-handed sword. The Royal Guard sword is both pretty and deadly, but it breaks so easily. My next favorite would be the ancient short sword. It glows and takes longer to break. Nodding, Red looked at her. How are you feeling? Wad looked away. Fine. Blue interrupted. Do you know what fine stands for? When Wild only gave him a confused look, he continued. Freaked out, insecure, neurotic, elephant. Elephant? I can never remember the last one. Vio took over. It's emotional. Now stop. You're interrupting Blue. It's rude. Vio then turned and looked at Wild. Is our taste in food really the way you figured out that we were 4 parts? It seems a little bit too nitpicky, for lack of a better word, to figure us out. And how did you realize that we have different personalities? I noticed that when I was picking dishes or seasonings based on your eye colors, you also behaved differently. On violet eye days, you preferred to talk with time and talk about philosophical stuff. You also used bigger words. Then, whenever you were worried about someone or talking with Wind and Hyrule, your eyes were always red. It took a while for Blue, but I noticed your eyes are always blue when fighting or talking to warriors in Legend. Wild cleared her throat, leaning backwards on her hands. I mean, normally your eyes are green and you talk about all sorts of stuff and everybody. Although you do talk more about smithing when your eyes are green than at other times. Violet eyes blinked back at her. Well, that's a bit impressive. We don't think anyone else has figured it out. I mean, several of them seem to know we have some sort of secret, but like the whole Twilight and Wolfie situation, we're leaving it alone until we are ready to talk about it. Well, what's your question? Wad looked at her hands as she rubbed them against each other. Why don't you tell everyone you could split? That you're 1 person, but at the same time you're 4 people. Don't you want to spend time apart? I mean, you have me to cover you sometimes, so you could split in private. Green rubbed the back of his neck, glancing away from her. Why hasn't Twilight told anyone about Wolfie? We know no one would care, but we still worry that they would think it's weird. We've not had the best reactions to it from most people who find out. Only Dot and Dad weren't weird about it all. Dad just built more bedrooms. He didn't react? That's an extra question, but we'll allow it. No, I mean, he sat us down and asked us to explain what happened, and then started trying to figure out what things each of us liked so he can bond with all of us. He took time off from working at the castle whenever he could to hang out with any one or more of us. Huh. It seems he handled it even better than I did. I freaked out for a bit as I was figuring it out. I thought you were possessed for at least a week straight. Really? We didn't notice, but it's our turn now. So, Red. Four's eyes turned red. I know you made one of our favorite dishes today, partially in thanks for Vio being all calm, but also despite the others. Or at least, I think that's what happened. But what's your favorite meal, or dessert, or whatever? I really like durian bread. Is that a recipe in the game? You should make it for us sometime then. It must be great if you think it's the best. Blue sat forward, grinning. So how did you come to name Twilight Wolfie? She froze, her face heating up. I'm just glad I didn't name him something weirder. She could tell she had all of Four's divided attention. Twilight, of course, knows this, but I never told anyone about the true extent of my memory loss. I mean, you all know I lost all of my memories, but you guys generally don't realize how extensive the loss truly was. Blowing out a breath to try and blow some hair that had fallen over her face away, she continued. When I got out of the pool in the shrine, I didn't know anything. I really mean anything. Some voice was calling me Link and telling me to pick up the slate. Quite frankly, it's embarrassing thinking about it when I first walked out of the shrine. I don't want to tell you how long it took me to put on the clothes I found, and I still ended up putting the pants on backwards. She shook her head. Anyways, I wandered out and saw this weird thing on the ground and picked it up. Suddenly, I knew it was a tree branch, which left me with some confusion as I didn't know what a tree was, or a branch. So, I tried to eat it. Four's eyes flashed different colors as they broke down laughing. They apologized for interrupting her, following with, "That's just such a you response." She smiled, continuing. Anyways, Wolfie showed up, and when I blinked at him, he dropped a mushroom on my foot. After figuring out it was edible, which was not my first or even third guess of what I was supposed to do with it, I started following Wolfie, as he obviously knew what he was going on, and didn't seem to mind me following him. Poking him, the only thing that came to my mind was the word wolf, so I called him that. She laughed. It was weeks later that I realized that wolf was a kind of animal and not his name. By that time, I had met one of my friends from before. She called me Linky, so I called him Wolfie. He responded to it, so I went with it. I mean, he rolled his eyes when I was all, wolf is an animal, and my friend called me Linky, so it must be something you use with friends, so I'm going to call you Wolfie. They both broke down laughing before Reg took his turn. So what is your favorite memory from back then? The first memory I had of Mipha, the Zoran champion. We were sitting on Valruta, and she was healing a cut on my arm. It was the first memory that I felt only good emotions about. Also, all my memories with Mipha are my best memories. Vio glanced at her before looking back into the woods. So, was she the one we saw earlier? Just a yes or no is fine if you're not willing to expand on it. Yes. She left it at that before asking her own question. What's the weirdest argument you've ever had with each other? What to wear in our merged form after the adventure? Since we had all had a chance to pick a preference in what to wear, then none of us wanted to wear the other colors, but all of us wanted to wear our color. Vio broke in. I want to make it clear, I wasn't part of this argument. Green eyes rolled. Yes, well, you still weren't talking to us yet, or at all. We just assumed you'd have similar opinions about not wanting to wear the other's colors but your own. Anyways, we came to this and included Vio, even though they weren't talking to us. Quite frankly, we probably would have come to the decision faster if Vio had been involved. Well, you guys definitely decided on something cool. Red smiled. Thanks, it was my idea. Blue grumbled. It wasn't all your idea. Green took over. It was all of Red's idea. Well, and Dad's. He worked with Red to design this and did all the embroidery, before giving Blue back control. Whatever. Who were the other champions? Well, I'll start with Rivali. He would have demanded to go first anyways. He was a bit like Blue in a lot of ways. He was amazing with a bow. He trained so hard that he came up with a brand new technique that he called Rivali's Gale. It launched him up into the air by creating his own updraft. It was a completely unprecedented ability. He was a genius to figure it out. Not that anyone dared to tell him that, for fear his head would literally float away. She sighed. I could never be as good an archer as him. That's kind of terrifying, considering your skill with a bow. The idea of anyone being better than you is... terrifying is a good term. He said he should have been the main champion, not me. Looking back at those memories, I think I might have agreed. Not verbally, of course. I never spoke to anyone outside of the domain at that point. I'm not sure if I was even using sign at the time, or if the other champions even knew Hylian sign language. I know I loved the domain. They were the only ones that still treated me the same as ever. I traveled there frequently as a child, from what Sidon told me. He was the one that told me that Mipha and I were... Wald took a breath trying to calm her heart. That we had been in love. Shaking her head, she focused back on 4. It's the reason I have the Zoran armor. It's traditional for women in their culture to gift the one they wish to marry a piece of armor as a sign of intent. I was working on my own gift, following Zoran tradition. Do you know where it is now? That's an extra question. Sorry, but you got one earlier. I do know where it is. It's in my slate now. I had left it with King Dorothan before the calamity for safekeeping. She is the one that hurts the most of the champions. Not that I remember anyone else, really. Being unable to remember her, it feels wrong, not remembering her. Sadon tells me about her, what he remembers himself. A couple of times I've remembered something he didn't, which is fun to remind him of something. Her voice went soft. I like to think she would approve of us. Before Blue could question about the odd comment, she continued. Now, Daruk. He was the Guan champion. He was huge. His hair looked like tiny mountains on his head. I have very few memories of him, but I know he was kind. The 4th and final champion was the Gerudo champion Urbosa. She was glad to become a champion and pilot Von Aboris. She had been personally angry that Ganon had claimed to be a Gerudo in the past. Otherwise, she was a just and kind leader. I always felt safe in my memories when she was nearby. Her great-granddaughter Riju is now the Gerudo chief, and her sand seal Patricia is so adorable. Red waited to see if she would continue before asking, Why don't you use the other champions' powers, if they each gave you one? They did, but they all talked about using the power to stop the calamity, and... Her words turned bitter. Save the princess? If you still have the powers, they probably want you to keep using them. Wald shrugged. Vio's face was troubled. Do you not like your Zelda? If yes, would you elaborate? You don't have to. That's not part of my question. I don't like her. My memories of her are never good, she snorted. The best one would be the time she tried to get me to eat a living frog. She was always yelling at me for tracking her down after she ran off. Like it was my choice to follow her. It was my job, and she never understood that. She swallowed thickly. I always felt like I got run over by a Lionel after those memories. Considering how I felt around warriors in the beginning of this quest, I think whenever I lost the princess, even at her orders, I got some sort of extra training or something. Vio's eyes were sad. I'm sorry, I asked. Wald shook her head. It's okay. If I hadn't wanted to tell you that, I wouldn't have said anything. Now my question. She pulled her slate out. What's up with your shadow? Vio's eyes widened, tone defensive. What about it? It didn't show up in photos at first. She held up the screen. It showed a picture from one of the first days in their journey. For's shadow was oddly absent in comparison to the other people in the picture. See, it's absent here. For's bodies relaxed somewhat as Green took over. He tried to speak, but Wild cut him off, showing him another picture. But here, your shadow is getting darker. It was a photo from a couple months ago. Suddenly, 4 was in 4 bodies as Vio grabbed the slate from her. The others fell over, not expecting the sudden separation from their merged body. Hell, they Didn't know they could do that without the sword. Wild blinked before looking at Vio. Vio's eyes were locked on the screen. Are there any more? Wild reached around Vio, who was in between the rest of four. Carefully, she managed to swipe at the screen, causing more recent pictures to appear. By the time they came to the most recent photo, Vio was shaking. Blue and Green had each grabbed one side of the slate to hold it steady. Red was hugging Vio tightly. Those three looked like they were moments away from outright crying. The only exception was Vio, who was already crying, large tear tracks running down their face. The most recent picture had their shadow almost the same color as the other shadows. Wild pointed at their shadow. In the picture, they had all been laughing at Warriors, who was freaking out about the mud wind had managed to get into his hair. See, that's when it really started to look weird. It's not going the right way. Vio's hands dropped from the slate as they buried their head in their hands, shoulders shaking with their tears, audibly sobbing. Blue had turned to Vio and Red, who was now crying, trying to comfort the pair, looking extremely awkward in her attempts. Green looked towards Wild, eyes wide. Can you take another photo and see if it really is Shadow? Wild blinked before glancing around the dark clearing. 1 second. Prying the slate from Green's hands, she moved it to the weapon screen. Green. Several giant flame blades fell to the ground. The colors were so out of it that they didn't even react to her mistreating the blades. Walking around the clearing, she stabbed them into the ground so any shadows cast by them would be clear. For good matter, she quickly started a fire with some wood in one of the blades. By the time she sat back down next to Four, it was almost as bright as noon in the clearing. Swiping the slate, she clicked on the camera rune and reversed the camera view. It clearly revealed their shadows. In the area where the colors should have been, had 4 shadows. There was only one, and it was not where it should have been. The shadow was trying to brush Vio's hair out of his face, the hair moving as if it was in a small breeze. By the goddesses, Green swore. That has to be him. That has to be Shadow. Shadow waved with his offhand. The other was still trying to fix Vio's hair. Green grabbed the slate and shoved it towards Vio. Look! Vio managed to glance up and stared into the screen. Shadow? Shadow's head moved indistinctly before he instead used his other hand to make a yes motion. You're really here. Vio reached out, trying to touch where Shadow would have been if he was corporal. Are you hurt? Is that why you're stuck like this? Is there something I can do? Shadow signed one-handed, the other hand now touching Vio's knee. He slowly used each sign before moving on to the next. It looked like weak, heal, slow, near twilight, help. No one could be certain those were the correct signs, as all of the signs were supposed to be two-handed, but Shadow had never once moved his other hand from Vio's knee. Wild blinked at the signs, trying to make sure she deciphered them correctly. Does being near Wolfie help as well, or just Twilight? Yes, no. So if I ask Twilight to sleep on 4, that will help? Yes. Several hand motions later, he ended up settling on a sign that was understandable, one that was one-handed. Silly. Obviously not the first choice, but Wolfie sleeping on top of 4 would be silly looking. Well, let's get back to the group, so you can either sit on Twilight, or I can talk to Wolfie later when I get the chance, and he'll fall asleep on you tonight. Or something. They left Vio alone with the camera and Shadow as the others began to collect the swords, letting Vio spend a little more time with Shadow. Green looks horrified, as Wild just dropped the blades onto the group haphazardly on top of each other. Red and Blue merely winced, making sure to place the blades they had gotten down more carefully. Apparently, they were with it enough now to know that they definitely noticed. Wild could almost hear the lecture already. Green stared at the pile aghast. No wonder Wild's blades broke with how he treated his weapons. Wild sighed. Vio, I need to put out the fire. I can let you use the camera at night when I don't need it for cooking and such. Oh, how long do you think it will take for him to finish healing? Vio, the only one looking at the screen, nodded. He says soon, 2 to 3 weeks. Wild nodded. That's great. Now I need the slate to put everything away. Vio nodded as he stood up, his smile soft, uttering a me too, before he gave the slate to Wild. Turning away slightly to wipe at their face, they accepted the cloth Blue gave them with a quiet thanks. Vio shook their head, trying to put on their normal calm expression. It fell far short, but no one mentioned it. Blue did grab the cloth to wipe a little more dampness from Vio's face. The four stared at each other. Red shuffled his feet. So, how do we become one? We don't have the fork sword. The four glanced at each other before they settled on Vio. Well, you were the one who split us. Do you know how to undo it? It was hard to tell if Vio blushed, as his cheeks were already still red, and his face splotchy from all the crying. Honestly, I have no idea. Well, how did you split us? I don't recall. I just tried to grab control, not separate us. Red glanced at Green and Blue. I tried to push them into control. Blue smiled. Same. Green sighed. I was just trying to fall back to give them control. Vio looked around the group, smiling. Thanks. Unfortunately, that doesn't tell us how to undo this. Blue shrugged. We could try merging. Maybe focus on putting Green in charge? The others shrugged, but with no better ideas, they grabbed onto each other and closed their eyes. Wild watched for a time, waiting for something to happen. Eventually, she sighed. I don't think that's working. Stepping back, the four colors looked at each other. Blue was the first to speak. Well, we're screwed. Red glared slightly at the language until both Green and Vio agreed. Green looked around. So I guess we're telling everyone? Or are we going to have Wild sneak back into camp and throw the forked sword at us without touching it somehow? I mean, we don't know if the sword will split the other heroes up. Most of us have just been cautious. Vio's the one that doesn't want anyone touching it. Red glanced at the others. Maybe if he wears gloves? Blue side-eyed him. Do you want to deal with the possibility of 4 Wilds? Wild reminded them. I've touched the scabbard before and nothing happened. What if I make sure to only touch the scabbard before I yeet it into the woods? Yeet? Something Wind said the other day when he threw a rock at a monster. They all sighed, leaving it to Green to choose. We're going to have to explain anyways, what with Shadow. Do you think it will go over better if we're together or separate? Vio snorted. No one is going to believe us unless we separate. Blue glared. I bet they will. Green turned to Wild. So you will yeet the sword to us, and then we can explain, after which we can separate if we need to prove it. Otherwise, I know I'm tired enough to fall asleep. It shouldn't be too hard to shift our bedroll closer to Twilight without raising suspicion. We are already close to him. Vio nodded. So Wild gets the sword to us, we merge, join the group, and explain. Separate to prove ourselves if needed, and then re-merge and fall asleep next to Twilight. The group nodded, agreeing on the plan before heading back toward the camp. Halfway back, Blue noticed that Vio's eyes had gotten misty, so she tried to distract them. Bet you 5 rupees they believe us without splitting. Vio smiled, eyes clearing, focusing on the now. Blue successfully distracted them from their thoughts. You're on. Green just sighed. They did realize it was all their own money, right? Notes. As always, constructive comments appreciated. Well, that is the end of part 2, chapter 2. I don't know what it would technically be called. Work 2. We'll go with that. of Mumix's linked verse journey. I'm doing this on the same day as Embers of Mipha's Grace. So, yeah. Well, hope you enjoy. Let me know down in the comments what you liked, I guess. I still don't know how to, not tag, but put the link to the fic in the description. So I tend to just put the name of the fic and the author. Let me know how to do stuff. Yeah. I also accept constructive criticism. So, bye.